Hi, it's Cory, and this is practice video number 3, where we're going to be taking a look at some really easy strumming patterns and really solidifying our skills with the most basic ukulele chords. Like every other video in this series, the first thing we're going to start out with would be stretching, making sure your body is ready, you're in the correct position with your body, you're stretched, you're limber, you're good to go. If you need any guidance on any of these exercises or whatever you'd like to do, I have them all listed out in the accompanying notes and guided worksheet for this practice video that can be found on my Patreon. But also episode 1 goes through all of the stretches explicitly, so you can always reference back to that if you need the extra help. After you are all stretched, make sure your ukulele is in tune. Once you're all tuned up, it's time to look at the chords we're going to be looking at for this practice video. Those chords are A minor, C major, F major, G7, and G major. Play an A minor chord. You're going to take your second finger and place it on the 4th string, 2nd fret. You're going to make sure that thumb is behind that 2nd fret, supporting the placement of your fingers. The strength for making these chords should come from your fingers, not like your palm supporting. So that is what your A minor sounds like. The next chord is going to be the C major chord. That's going to be your 3rd finger placed on string 1 on the 3rd fret. For this chord, I still will place my thumb behind the 2nd fret, not all the way down on the 3rd. But that's just for me. If you're just brand new to starting out and you already feel like your finger might be getting kind of sore from playing a little bit, if your fingers are getting like little indents and stuff into them, like if you're a brand new player, that is super normal. Eventually you will build those calluses up. But if that is the case and you're brand new, then stick that thumb behind the 3rd fret just to give you a little extra support. But otherwise, that is your C major chord. Next up, we have the F major chord. So you're starting with your 1st finger on fret 1, string 2. Then you're taking your 2nd finger, placing it on the 2nd fret, 4th string. For this chord, I would place my thumb behind my 1st fret to give extra support to my 1st finger, and then it sounds like this. Next up, we're going to be looking at that G major chord. For G major, this is a 3-finger chord, as is G7. So for this one, we are taking our 1st finger and then on the 2nd fret, placing that on the 3rd string. We are then taking our 2nd finger, placing it on the 1st string of the 2nd fret. And then our 3rd finger is going to go on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. For my thumb, I'm placing it because most of the pressure here is on string 1 or on finger 1 and 2. So I'm going to be placing my thumb behind fret 2 to add that extra support, and that gives me my G major chord. And lastly, we're going to be taking a look at the G7 chord. I like to think of this chord as like an inverted G. So you're going to be starting with your 1st finger placed on the 1st fret, 2nd string, then your 2nd finger is going to go on the 2nd fret, 3rd string, then your 3rd finger is going on the 2nd fret, 1st string. For this one, I place my thumb behind the 1st fret because I actually find sometimes because you're so close to the nut on the ukulele, it can be a little bit trickier to be able to place it down. So I'm kind of like mostly on the 1st fret, behind the 1st fret rather, a little bit behind the 2nd fret. But that gives me my G7 chord. Once you are really solid with those chords, it's time to practice some easy transitioning with some easy strumming patterns. A lot of times people get stuck in the very first one I'm going to show you, and then they don't know where to move on. So the first one we're talking about is in fact the island strum. The island strum, just demonstrated on a C major chord, is a down, down, up, up, down, up. What I want you to do for that strumming pattern is we are going to go through 2 progressions. The first progression is going to be a C major to G, to A minor, to F. Now, if you're thinking, hey, I know that song, it's probably because that's one of the most common progressions in pop music. So if you know that little progression, you can play most songs even if you don't know the original key. The other progression I want to teach you is going to be a C major to F, to G7, to C. that one is also a very common one. It's often a little bit in older music and a lot of like children's tunes. It's also, any of those progressions are really, really great to rotate between if you ever want to like write your own music. It's just a really easy one that you can really apply to a lot of different songs and a lot of different situations. So those are the two strumming progressions I want you to really focus on with this. What you're going to do is taking each of the strumming patterns. I introduced the island strum to you first, and I'm going to demonstrate this exercise with the island strum, and then you're going to apply the exercise to 2 more strums that I'll talk about in a minute. I want you to do it at 3 different tempo. A slow tempo of 45 beats per minute, a medium tempo of about 60 to 65 beats per minute, and then a fast tempo of 90 to 95 beats per minute. What you're going to do for this, and we'll just demonstrate using the C to G to A minor to F progression first, is initially when you play through, you want to do an entire pattern, like an entire strumming pattern through each chord. So if I can demonstrate, it's C, up, up, down, up, G, A minor, F. Now, the next time you go through, you're going to be changing a little bit faster, and it's going to be in the middle of the strumming pattern. So you're going from 1 chord for each strumming pattern to switching in the middle of the chords. So now I'm going to be playing 2 chords per strumming pattern, and it's going to sound like this. Now, the next time you play it, you probably guessed it, you're going to try to play all 4 chords per strumming pattern. It's going to sound like this. It's not really realistic that you'd ever be doing that in a song, but it really makes it so you have to have those transitions super on point. So again, here is the entire little progression of it, of what you'd be playing. You have once per chord, 2 chords per strumming pattern, and a little bit of a tip for when you get to the point where you're changing on each beat. The down, the initial down of the down, down, up, down is 1 beat. Down, up is 2, that's on beat 2. Then when you have the up, that's your 3rd beat, and then the down, up will be the last one. So to really break it down, you'll play that on C, G, then up on the A minor, and then down, up on F. And then of course you do this with the other strumming, with the other progression too, of the C, F, up on the G7, and then down, up for the C. Now the trick here is you have to do that to all the different tempos. This can be done with a metronome. I just use the one on my phone. I use Metro Timer. It's a free app. So you're going to do that with each of the different tempo markings, with each of the progressions. The other 2 strumming patterns you're also going to want to practice that with is going to be a down, 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 up, down, up. So at 90 beats per minute, this is what that exercise would sound like. 1, and this is played on progression 1. 1, 2, here we go. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up. A minor. And then the last strumming pattern that we have is potentially going to be kind of a tricky one, but it's a little bit funky. And basically it's just practicing playing on the offbeat. So you have down, up, 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 up. Slowly, down, up, then you're skipping the next down, up, up, up. All right? This is what that whole progression, again, first progression played on 90 beats per minute sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, for all that, you're practicing through the different tempo markings, picking your progression that you're practicing at. ideally practicing both and then going through it at each tempo marking with the various strumming patterns. So that's a little bit of a meaty exercise here, but again, because we're working with the most basic chords, this is one that you can come back to a lot, and you do not have to do the entire thing in 15 minutes. This would be a great one, be like day one of, say you're going to practice this throughout the entire week. Day one, I'm practicing this progression with this strumming pattern, just to give you some options. Now for the last part, we are going to be looking at a new thing probably for most people, and that is called triplets. What we're doing here is using a triplet, which is when you have a beat that has been divided into 3 even parts. So the way that you think of triplet is you can either say triplet, or I find it easier for beginner players to associate it with other words that they're familiar with, like strawberry, triplet strawberry, triplet strawberry. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through on progression 2. And you could do it at each of the different progressions. On the worksheet, I have as an example with progression 2, and that is with C, F, G7, and C. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is picking. I would assign for each of your strings, you're only going to be worrying about string 3, 2, and 1. I'd put your thumb on string 3, your first finger on string 2, and your second finger on string 1. And you're going to be picking of triplet, 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 triplet. But you're going to be moving and placing your fingers wherever it needs to for that particular chord. You can either think of it in terms of chords of C, F, G7, C. Or you can think of it is with tab, which I have it written out in the worksheet too. And it's on the screen as you can see it. So the whole progression would be like this. Now, if that's a little bit too fast for you, you could, of course, just have it be played multiple times. You could do a lot of times, but I think it's good to practice through it. This little triplet pattern is one of the most common ones I do for my easy picking patterns with songs, so it's really easy to apply to like really any song that you can just exchange out the strumming for picking. And like I said, again, you're going to want to do this at each of the different tempo markings to literally solidify your practice. But in all, this is practice exercise number 3. Practice it in little chunks is probably your most difficult one yet. But again, I'm trying to give a lot of different variety for all the different levels that we have here. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.